Well, now to the conversation that we are looking. The president is having his tour of Makueni, Kitui, and also Machakos counties, but we're also having a conversation here on tourism. Kenya's tourism sector, which has been one of the highest earners in the recent past and for decades, and we are working towards actualizing 3 million visitors this year. Where are we? There's a conversation that we are having. I remember the USA had topped the charts in regards to visitors when it to international visitors last year, and of course Uganda and Tanzania are also other countries that are also on the forefront of bettering tourism here in the country. And when we talk about that, we are talking about both international or global and intra-regional, and also COVID-19 pandemic also almost brought the industry to its knees, but we have rebounded over the years. We have also engaged in new markets in tourism. What am I talking about? I'm talking about, we have seen sports tourism. You've seen we had Chan a few months ago. We also have numerous marathons right here in the country, and also we are witnessing biking and even something else that we also need to take keen interest in, medical tourism. We have one of the best hospital setups in the region, and that has also brought a number of people here for medical tourism. The Kenya Tourism Board was named the best in Africa during the Baliarinka Awards, and the Masai Mara National Reserve named as the best safari destination, just to mention where we are in terms of the numbers. But enough of that. Allow me to just rope in my panel of experts, beginning from my immediate left. We have Shazmin Manji. Shazmin is the Director of Retail and Corporate Sales, Twiga Tours. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And just next to Shazmin, we have Fred Odek, who is the Chairman, Kenya Tourism Federation.
Thank you very much.
Karibu.
Asante.
Maybe to begin with the number that I've just mentioned, the 3 million tourists by the end of this year, is quite ambitious. If you look at other years, we've never hit 3 million. Mr. Fred, do you think we are on course to achieve that?
By and large, yes. Realistically, no. I don't think we can grow that number that quick. The reason is that if you look at the market we still have the same source markets. And always when we discuss numbers in the industry, we need to understand that Kenya is a long-haul destination, which means that our main clientele is far reach from us. And so capacity is another issue. Do we have enough capacity to bring tourists in? Number two, we are competing with everybody else across the region, within the East African market, South African market. And so are we the most preferred destination? Are we placing ourselves as the most preferred destination? So the numbers are growing, yes, but I don't think we are going to reach the 3 million number yet. We still have a short window, which is between this month and December. December is basically the best month for the domestic market. You're going to have a lot of influx into our reserves, our beaches, the western region in terms of hotel bookings. So that is going to surge. But I don't think where we are today, we are going to actually hit the 3 million mark. That would be quite a lucky note. But with the kind of work that has been done, the approvals that have been done for the airlines coming from Europe, Asia, we still have another year or so to hit that mark. Yeah.
Shazmin, I would also want to pick your mind in regards to the 3 million that we are keen on achieving. I'm also looking at it in the context of the head of state declaration that the no visa, for about 3 months that you can visit the country. Has it really increased the numbers that we can almost close into the 3 million mark?
I think it's definitely made access to the country much easier. The new ETA process is by far amongst the easiest on the African continent. It's a simple and easy to use system. And obviously for the continent, we've also made Kenya a no visa destination completely, which makes it very attractive to African travelers. As long as the product is marketed correctly to them and is affordable to them, then it can help us reach the 3 million mark. If we look at the size of the African continent, the population, with over 1 billion people, if we were able to just target 1% of that, we would be doing phenomenally beyond the 3 million mark.
And as tour operators, are you ready? Because then the big number will also attract bigger infrastructure.
There is a lot of tour operators out there. That is the beauty. There's a wide range of operators who offer a range of products and services at different price points. So I think the industry is definitely ready to receive these kind of numbers. Just we're waiting for the numbers. We're doing our part to try and bring in the numbers. We just need to make sure we now get those numbers.
All right. Fred, I accompanied the president over the weekend during the Ma Cultural Festival in Amboseli, Kimana Gate, and I remember it was very instrumental, especially for the Kajiado residents, because he handed over the deed to the Amboseli National Park to the locals. I would like to pick your mind in regards to that gesture, and what may be, because I'm quite sure a lot of viewers are watching from Kajiado, what are they going to benefit from in this regard?
The Amboseli National Park, from the beginning, was actually an asset for Kajiado County. It was basically gazetted into a national park, and the land is a community land. It was taken from the people from that region. So for us, best thing is that give it back to them, and we need to separate two things. One, wildlife management, and the reserve management. Those are two different things. We still expect that KWS will be still instrumental in wildlife management, and Kajiado County will be instrumental in management of the reserve. Now, that allows them to do two things. One is that the people around Kajiado, because remember, the park itself has access areas that actually link the wildlife from the park and outside. So now they have a chance to compensate the people who actually live around the wildlife, which before could have been ignored. So that was not a benefit for them. For now, it is in their hands. It's in the county government's hands to ensure that everybody who actually is part of that reserve actually is compensated by the collection they're having to do by themselves. But our understanding is that while that's a very good thing, we need KWS to be able to actually still stay in the management of wildlife. Because a number of times the problem with the management of wildlife is that the resources required to manage wildlife may not be readily available in the hands of Kajiado County as we speak. So it's a good thing for the industry at large. And now the industry that we are part of needs to actually support Kajiado County and assist them on how to do their work. Because again, there'll be an issue of collecting revenue from that place, managing that revenue, ensuring that the people feel the effect of that transfer. Because if you don't do that and they don't feel it, they'll actually not manage the resource. Remember, if you look at Kajiado, the reserve itself, that is a very good source from Kilimanjaro area because of the water catchment that they have in that area. So it's very important that the conservation part of it is actually kept to the best levels. So we support it as an industry. We have no problem with what they've done. We would really like to have a talk with Kajiado County to understand the modalities they're putting in place. First, in collection of revenue for the place. Two, the contract they're going to have with KWS in terms of management of wildlife, and what they're going to do to the community that are actually having the areas that are around the conservancies that we have. Because we have, those are outside, and then the national one that was already inside. So if we manage that ecosystem, I think we'll all benefit.
Maybe you can chip in on the same question, because you are a tour operator. Are there some benefits that are going to accrue with this move? And maybe what are some of the challenges with this new move?
I think it will be a very positive move. Like Fred said, we are looking forward to it. We're looking forward to greater collaboration with the county government. I think KWS has definitely done a wonderful job in managing it, but we hope that the county government can do the same, if not better, in terms of managing the resources, the infrastructure within the park. That for us as a tour operator is extremely important. Managing the internal infrastructure. How do we ensure that the guest experience inside the park meets or exceeds expectations? Also, we have to be careful in terms of what is the county's plans in terms of expansion or allowing additional development in and around the park, and what impact that will have. It is my hope as a tour operator that they will engage private sector more. I think that's one of the things that's really lacking when policy is being developed. Engagement with private sector and the environmentalists to understand how much more can a park, for example, of Amboseli size, which is give or take just under 400 square kilometers, how much more development can it take in terms of new hotels and lodges in and around the park?
Yeah, and also as tour operators, how are you adapting to the new festive packages? Because we have witnessed that during peak, the prices are almost quite high, and it's only natural because of the influx of the numbers. And how are you adapting these to ensure that even local tourists want to spend time with their families and also have fun during the festive season?
Yeah, I was chatting with a colleague yesterday who's very prominent in the domestic market to understand really what is the impact in the domestic market. This is the time when schools are closing, and so the Kenyans travel between November, not just in the festive season, but enjoying the low season as well. And what is very clear is that the increase in park fees has made it very difficult for the average Kenyan to travel within Kenya at an affordable price. Packages outside the country are more affordable, not just in the low season, but definitely in the peak season. And so there's a shift for the Kenyan consumer to re-look at where they're looking to travel to. Instead of traveling locally, they're opting to go outside the country and spend the money outside rather than locally. That, of course, for our economy and our industry is not a great thing. It has an impact, not just for me as a tour operator, but for the entire chain down the line, for the hotel and the suppliers of the hotels and up to the mama bogas and the manufacturers, etc. So in this season, which is considered a little bit of an off season before the festive season, where we relied heavily on domestic travel, we're seeing that domestic travel is not there as much as it should be.
And Fred, looking at, there have been proposals to increase park fees. And I don't know how, as a federation, you took this, and what would you want? What are some of the amendments or policies that we should adopt when it comes to park fees? Because at the end of the day, the economy is harsh, but the cost of everything is going up.
The park fee discussion that was done between KWS and the public started somewhere in March this year. And the explanation was very straightforward, that the country has not done that review for 18 years, and the cost of managing those parks was getting high. So that was done in relation to what do they need to manage those parks. And so that was generally agreed among the industry members and KWS, despite the fact that some of the costs, like Shazmin has mentioned, that are not favorable to the local market, because the jump looks quite high compared to what was there before. But the justification was that this was not been done for 18 years. So if it could have been done gradually, people could have gotten adapted to it and actually consumed it much better. Now, you'll expect in any industry that the costs of living will always keep on going up because of inflation and everything else. So we have no beef as an industry with the KWS increasing the park fee. What they now need to do is education of the traveler and the traders on their reasoning for that and what they bring on the table. Because if you increase the park fees, people expect you to have better services in these places. And if you can give them that, show the improvement of what you're doing, they'll slowly and slowly consume what you're telling them. Now, as an industry, we do expect this to happen, but we are looking for stability. We need to be told, if we do a review now, when do we do the next review? So that the industry is very much aligned and can actually inform the trading partners on what to expect. Now, if you sit back and wait for 18 years, then you come and say, because I didn't do it 18 years, I must do it now, and you do a heavy jump. In the interim, what you do, you actually affect yourself. Now, what's going to happen from what Shazmin has said is that people are going to shy away from visiting these parks because of the cost is high. So in the interim, the actually management of KWS will see less revenue on their side, because the influx numbers they are looking at, that they were using their costing on, will not actually come. As an industry, we get very worried when the consumer chooses another destination apart from, away from their own destination. In developed countries, people travel in their destination first before they go to another destination. If you look at South Africa, which is one of our competitors, their highest client is the local.
Local tourism?
Yes, is the highest client. Now, in Kenya, our highest client is actually the international traveler. Despite the fact that we are a long-haul destination, we have not managed to get the local traveler to actually embrace the product. Now again, before we can actually entice them to get it done, we've done something else that is now making them to consider another destination. So we need to change that mindset, that our best product is our local product first, because it does two things. One, you develop your own country when you consume your own product, and two, not every Kenyan knows the length and width of the country. Even just by taking a car and driving to a different county is very important as a Kenyan. You get to learn a couple of things within your area and demystify a lot of things by just being in those places. So let's move away from expensive tourism to explorative tourism, whereby we explore our own country. If we do that, it becomes easy for us to actually appreciate what we have as a country.
And looking at how you guys were able to bounce back, COVID-19 almost, brought the industry to its knees, and even some of the tour operators had to shut down. How did you bounce back from that, and what are some of the lessons that you are able to pick from that? And not only COVID, something else that usually brings issues or rattles the country is the general election. I remember in 2022 we had one, and we had not quite recovered from the COVID-19, but at least now we are talking about 3 million visitors projection. Yeah. Then it shows that you guys have been able also to pick up as well.
Yeah, COVID was a very difficult time for the entire country. Tourism as well was no exception. We were grateful for the domestic tourists who really started to explore Kenya more and more at that point. Bouncing back, one of the key learnings has been the unity within the industry, how the industry came together and spoke with one voice to address the challenges both at a local, national and international level, to send across the message that Kenya is a safe place to travel to. Safety is paramount when dealing with the international markets, our source markets. And again, as we come up to elections in 2027, that is one of the key messaging we must be able to put out as a united front, not just as a tourism industry, but as an entire nation, that Kenya is a safe country to visit. The people are warm and friendly at all times. And the negative images that people see, that the Western media sometimes like to portray, is not the reality on the ground. We must be our biggest trumpeters, if you will. You must be the biggest shout out as a destination, brand ambassadors. The Kenyans must speak loudly about how wonderful it is, rather than negatively about what are the few bad things that are happening, and amplifying that rather than the positive that is there. That is very, very important. And it's with that positivity, we were as an industry, that collective messaging, we were as an industry able to get out of COVID and the 2022 elections, because there was a little bit of uncertainty with the global markets, and we're hoping that will continue moving forward.
Fred, I did mention when beginning this conversation about the new markets that we have been exploring. We're looking at the sports tourism. We've had a number of marathons, and they keep just, and also we've had the medical tourism. We are doing biking, hiking. We've seen a group of 50 bikers. We've seen headed to Mount Kenya. How are we doing in the new market as opposed to the conventional traveling to game parks or national reserves?
Most of what we have under
medical tourism.
Sports tourism is basically under adventure. There's a lot of people who are coming here basically to explore. And Kenya has one advantage. We've been marketed as a marathon country. And it has been identified that there are regions in the country that allows people to train better, good attitude to train and actually get better. Now, if you look at KTB, the Kenya Tourism Board, what they've done is that they've now identified that as a product. And in all their messaging, they are now allowing the international traveler to understand that you can come to Kenya to train for sports. You can come to Kenya to hike. You can come to Kenya to... Now that allows them, the traveler out there, and even the local travelers here, there's a lot of sports travel within the local Kenyans. A lot of the gym phenomenon has come out in Kenya. Hiking is being done every weekend, people are hiking somewhere. And that adds into the issue of exploring your own country. if you live in Nairobi and you're doing hiking in Kiambu, you're doing hiking in Nakuru, you're doing hiking in Aberdares, you're basically getting to learn your country. Number two, you support the resources in that area. Simple hotels, simple restaurants, you support them by actually distributing the money that is coming from Nairobi to those areas. That is the importance of tourism. Now, people have spoken about medical tourism. It's an important area, but if I look at the Kenyan market today, I don't think we're still at the level of talking about medical tourism. Mm-hmm. The hospitals we have in Kenya that can do medical tourism, apart from Nairobi Hospital, Nairobi West, Aga Khan.
Your referral.
Now, the referral hospitals we have are actually overutilized by the locals. For you to actually do medical tourism, I would like to see a case whereby the locals and themselves are properly cared for to actually advance the idea of that now we can take care of other people. Because if you look at our facilities, those that I've mentioned, those are very high-end properties, which takes care of the whole middle class that Kenya has through the medical insurance that we have. We need for us to talk about medical tourism to have a private sector in tourism that is basically dedicated for that kind of infrastructure, that kind of investment. Then the local people don't suffer. People try to rush to things that don't look at the country as a whole. Right now, for me, tourism that we're looking for, medical is not one of them. Because if you look at by and large, look at
not for now.
Not for now. Look at the statistics in the country. Where are our patients going? Our patients are going to India. Our patients are going to Turkey. Our patients are going to China for treatment. Now, how can we be talking about medical tourism unless we are talking about cosmetic procedures, while our actual sick are leaving the country for the same service outside? We are paying more money outside than actually we would talk about receiving in the country. So let's allow the country to develop more stronger infrastructure for medical services before we talk about the tourism sector now inviting people to come to Kenya for medical tourism. We have enough products. For me, we need to look at more in adventure, more in sports, more in our domestic, normal, traditional product of we're having of wildlife on the beaches. And if you look at the country, we are using almost only 7 parks. The entire country is not explored. I'll give you an example. We have the blue economy. Kisumu has got a port, which can actually be used to connect Kisumu and Uganda on a ship. It's not being utilized. That can be one of the biggest tourism products that you can sell, because that lake is clear water lake. It's the best place to play, and we can have a cruise ship there that goes to Mwanza, goes to Entebbe and back. But it's not being utilized. So the infrastructure within East Africa first needs to be used to actually allow people to play in that lake. Instead of talking about this complicated part of medical tourism, let's use what we have naturally. Tourism works very well naturally. So let's use the natural stuff that we have in our country. Our rivers, our lakes, our ocean, our mountains, all that needs to be exposed to people and marketed to people so that they enjoy it without causing any problem to the local communities. When you start talking about medical tourism, for me, the challenge is that you are going to starve the local people. Because medical is very expensive in Kenya. We must demystify that first before we talk about exporting it as a product.
It's a field that we will expect the results in a number of years.
In a number of years.
Still, let me pick from where Fred has left, and I'm looking at the tourist destinations that are being preferred now that we're in the peak. Are the parks, game parks, coast, upcountry, hiking? Which ones are being preferred most as an operator? And what are some of the challenges that you experience now that we're in peak season?
So we're coming to the end of the peak season, and then we'll start the festive season as the next peak season. For our international market, as Fred said, we work with mainly 7 main parks, maybe 10 of the private, including some of the conservancies, and the coastal region. So the product is very much restricted to those areas. And it's starting to also start getting very overcrowded as a result. The pressure on those parks is becoming quite intense. When we look at our numbers earlier, we were talking about the 3 million mark. If you look at the historic numbers of Kenya post-COVID, Kenya's numbers have been growing on average at a 15% rate year on year, 22, 23, 24, and it's expected to be similar for 2025. If that's the case and we're able to maintain this momentum and you're keeping the guests restricted to these 7 or 10 parks, you can imagine the pressure on those very delicate environments that we have. Trying to explore other areas and regions is definitely a priority, as long as the government gives us the right infrastructure and the right policies which are predictable, which are clear and which are streamlined, that allow investors to have confidence to come in and take the product beyond these 7 parks and 2-3 conservancies that are there. That way we have a wider product to offer the international consumer, and where the domestic consumer is concerned, they have more opportunities to go explore, do the adventure tourism, try out wellness tourism, and all the other offers that we're looking to try to grow in the industry.
Fred, and challenges, some of the challenges that you're facing during peak?
Challenges, of course, is bed nights. Bed nights and pricing, that always becomes a challenge, and that's understandable. It's the time when everybody wants to travel. The hotels will increase their pricing, of course, because it's a demand issue, and they will obviously want to make the most of it, like anywhere in the world. It's not exclusive to Kenya. This is a global thing. So pricing is obviously an issue, but we managed to work around it. Like I said, demand is still there for Kenya. The perception of Kenya being a quality destination overall is still there. People still have confidence in coming to Kenya. It has its issues, it has its challenges in terms of sudden jumps and knee-jerk policies that come into place. But other than that, there's still generally a good confidence to be able to continue selling Kenya as a destination.
And Fred, maybe to touch on infrastructure, I'm looking at when we went there, we drove for hours just looking for somewhere to sleep, because almost all the camps and the tented camps were all filled. What are some of the logistical, and also as a federation, what are some of the challenges that your members raise in regards to tourism, and especially now we are in the peak season?
The accommodation issue normally is a seasonal thing. The same parks that you were in the period when the president was there and were all full, in 2 days will be all empty. Why is that so? Because you went there as a delegation from the government and the community, and so they were all filled up. They have to stay in the same area. Remember, when you work in a national park, like she started telling you, the accommodations are limited. And they're limited to the fact that you need to space them in a way that they don't affect the environment. So during the peak season, you'll have that problem whereby accommodations are less. But to the industry, I think the main challenge we have is the infrastructure, whereby the roads are not properly done. And so that changes the experience that people are looking for. Security is another issue, that all those areas need to be secure so that people feel safe when they access the parks. The main highways have been the biggest challenge for us, because every time tourists on the road, communities around those highways keep on having picketing. And when they picket, they block the road. So you actually have clients going to a particular place, like Amboseli has been having the same problem, Mara has the same problem. Livestock on the roads is another problem, where people drive livestock on the highway, a sheep is knocked down and the whole highway is shut down. And it becomes now a communication between the driver guides and the communities around there and the local police. And remember, the people that you're inconveniencing are working on a particular time frame. They need to be in a particular place at a particular time, because if you're coming to Kenya for a safari, maybe you have only 10 days. Every day must count for something. So when your people are being held on the highways for that long because of the intricacies of the communities around, that's a challenge. And as an industry, we've tried our level best to basically negotiate without causing any more commotion, because we must live with the communities around those areas. They actually the custodians of those parks or the regions where they are, but it's a challenge. Another issue is most of the roads that link us to these main reserves are not properly done. So you find that a road is done up to somewhere, and then another 2 hours or 3 hours of drive is a very bad road. And it takes a lot of time for people to lobby for the road to be done. So for us to benefit as a country, we need to basically invest in this area that we want people to actually explore. Do the infrastructure, the roads, the internet, things that make it easier for people to actually spend time in those areas. And then when it comes to the issue of accommodation, I think the most important thing is that we need to ensure that they are done with a study. Don't just go clamp accommodation in a place because somebody said, oh, we were looking for an hotel, we didn't get a room somewhere. Accommodations actually kill reserves. If you overput them in a reserve, you actually kill the destination. Because why people prefer Kenya, tourists prefer to come to Kenya, is that our product is still unique and authentic. Now, once you change that part of the product being authentic and turn it into a city, you drive away that particular client you're looking for. So it's important that we keep less accommodation, and if we must add accommodations in these reserves, a study must be done. Does it make sense to actually add more accommodations? Yeah.
And still on the same, let me look for market diversification. The reason I'm talking about market diversification is because we heavily rely on tourists from Europe and America. Okay. And there are other markets that we can delve into, and they have very good population. Practical example, India, we also have China. So how are you doing as a federation to ensure that we also rope in some of these new markets that we haven't tapped, and especially the Asian market, which has a big population?
As a federation, I think we've done very well. If we look at the last 4 years, Kenya has not done marketing the way they should. KTB has been starved of funds, and so they are not actually giving a marketing schedule for the country. What has happened that KTF and Kato has always put together a marketing team to actually get out to market the destination. Now, if you look at this, the lay of the land, we've ensured that we tap India as a destination. We've ensured that we tap South America as a destination. We've tapped Spain, which was not very common. We are now getting there for marketing. You'll find that we've got ourselves into Singapore, which is an Asia side for marketing. That if you go to a marketing in Singapore, basically you are getting yourself Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam. All those countries will be actually in that marketing expo. So we've diversified our market. And even within Africa, we go for the Indaba, which is very important for you to actually tap the Southern Africa market. If you look at what we've done, Kenya right now do a lot of work with Nigeria. If you look at Mombasa, the coast of our country, Diani, they are receiving a lot of tourists from Nigeria. They are receiving a lot of tourists from Uganda. And those are efforts done by the industry. Every year, if you look at what we are doing, that all the expos are being done by Pearl of Africa in Uganda, we are always there. And the reason why we are doing that, this year we went to another one, I think in Namibia. The reason why we are doing that is that we've identified the fact that for us to actually fill the beds we have, both in the coastal region and in our reserves, we need a diversified market. Both regional market, international market, what you're talking about. Some of the destinations people talk about, oh, why don't you go to China? China travel is controlled by the government of China.
I almost asked the same question.
So normally what happens is, if there's a year that they've been restricted not to go a certain direction, they'll not come. You'll find that we don't have those big numbers. Yeah, and when they're allowed to do that, to travel, you'll see them here in droves. So you need to understand the destination. Where I'm going, who controls the travel? Is it government? Is it private sector? But by and large, we have tried for the last 4 years as a federation to ensure that the destination Kenya is presented in diverse markets. US is just one of them. UK is just one of them. Initially, those two are our main bread and butter. But if you look at the numbers, even if we do the numbers that are going to come end of year, you'll see a lot of Asia travel in Kenya. And one market that nobody has ever thought of doing, and Kenya is doing, Russia. We actually send teams from here to go to Russia to market Kenya, and they've done very well. So we are so diverse The only challenge we have is one, and that's why we've been talking to the government over and over again to work on the issue of capacity, flights. You need enough flights landing either in Mombasa or Nairobi to actually give you the kind of tourists you're looking for. And now, something very important has happened that will actually be, if we can now use that and market it properly, the issue of cruise tourism that is now happening in our Mombasa port. Cruise tourism have got the ability to give you, in one dock, 2,000 tourists, just like that. Now, the question is, are they just passing or are they docking? We don't need them passing. We need this marketing of cruise tourism to be done in a way that Kenya is a destination, not a passing port. And the destination means that they can stop there for 4 or 5 days. If you have a flooding of 2,000 tourists disembarking in Mombasa port, I can assure you, we'll be forced to get equipment from Nairobi to send to Mombasa to just manage those tourists within that 4 days. And that is very good for the destination Mombasa and its surroundings, and the Savo East, Savo West, Amboseli parks, and even those who can fly into the Mara. That 4 or 5 days changes an economy, because that is real spend on the ground. You know, the important of tourism is that it's not a money that somebody is borrowing you. No. When you have tourists in your country, you are getting people paying money cash. The inflow of money is in your hands real time. And that's why I'm telling you, if we change the way we are marketing cruise tourism and make the destination Mombasa not just a passing port, but a landing port whereby we have got cruise scheduled for 5 days in Mombasa port, you'll be seeing people migrating Mombasa. Because that business is enough to sustain the livelihoods around that place.
Okay. I'm looking at also the same question. How are you as operators now, away from the Federation, how are you roping in these new markets? He's mentioned a market I had not heard of, Russia. Also the cruise ships that are also docking. How are you roping them in as tour operators? And also, how do you deal with cancellation? You might have 100 guests and then the last minute they decide to cancel because of a few things, maybe because of elections or something.
Let me separate the questions for a minute.
Yes.
Let's look at the product first, right? And accessibility. Like Fred said, cruise tourism and access to the destination is critical. As tour operators, we're working with KTF behind the scenes. KTF provides the platform, and the marketing is then done by the tour operators to sell the destination. So we're the ones who go out with our brochures, et cetera, to say why Kenya is such a fantastic destination. The communication is coming from the tour operators who are on the ground ready. They may be specialized in adventure, they may be specialized in wellness, they may be specialized in family retreats, luxury, mid-range budget, whatever it is. All the tour operators are coming together on this platform provided by KTF and Kato to go out and say, come to Kenya, we are ready for you, these are the products available. The cruise tourism is just another one which we're really pushing at the moment. But like I said, wellness, adventure. Other ones we're not thinking about much at the moment, but should be thinking about is city-based tourism. Nairobi is a vibrant city. Mombasa is a vibrant city. There's things like gastronomy, shopping that we can leverage on for just city breaks to build the numbers. And those don't have pressure on our delicate environments of the parks. It can compete with nearby destinations such as Cape Town and Dubai, if the right infrastructure and investment is allowed to happen. Other opportunities that we're also losing out on is wedding tourism. Weddings used to be really big in Kenya at one time. Right now, the current laws do not allow us to hold legal weddings, and as a result, we've lost this entire market. Nigeria, for example, spends millions of a couple of $1 million sometimes on their weddings. Indian weddings as well, we know. Indian weddings can go 3, 4, 5 days at a go. And they love destination weddings. Mombasa used to be a preferred destination. And for smaller weddings, our parks. We're losing on this and we need to find ways to bring this back. In terms of cancellations, we're guided by cancellation policies that are in place already by our partners, the hotels and other service providers. But in the case of abnormal events, election crisis or something like that, we usually engage our partners to come to an agreement and see how best to manage it. We do encourage our travelers to always buy a travel insurance the moment they pay a deposit for their holiday to Kenya, or a domestic traveler the moment they pay a deposit for their holiday within the country or beyond. Buy a travel insurance, because that travel insurance will cover you for any last-minute cancellations. Travel advisories tend to be a challenge for us sometimes in the event of unrest, riots, etc. We've been seeing it in the June, July, early July period over the last couple of years. That creates a little bit of uncertainty, and in those cases, if the travel advisory changes, then they can go back to their travel insurance. And that is very important for our partners to understand, that that insurance protects the traveler, but at the same time protects the partners on this side, so that they don't lose money as well. That is very important.
And Fred, I'm looking at also concerns in regards to the shortage of skilled and experienced experts in the hospitality and guiding as well. And we are looking at what you're doing to collaborate with educational institutions to professionalize and retain top Kenyan talent. Because in Amboseli, there is the Ndovu Institute, there is a number of Kenya Wildlife Institutes around. If at all we are going to hit 3 million, and of course if we hit 3 million, we'll be looking at 5 million and so on and so forth, we will need a lot of skilled labor. From your side, where do you see us in terms of professionalism in this work?
In the region, if you look at the EAC, Kenya is the most capitalized country in terms of manpower. And that started from Utalii College, being the main center for excellence for tourism. And that has remained so. I don't think where we sit today, we actually have the problem of manpower in the industry. Our problem is interest.
Interest?
Those are two different things. We've got enough people who have been trained as driver guides, as hoteliers, as managers in the tour industry, travel. We have enough manpower. The issue that affected the industry most, which is what we're weaning ourselves from, was COVID-19. When COVID-19 happened, companies were forced to actually release their staff. And that demoralized a lot of people from the industry. Even though we recovered very quickly, the uptake of the staff was less because of the uncertainty of, am I going to get my clients back? So that has taken a while to actually get the entire workforce back in place. By the time the industry was ready now to employ, most of the best staff we had either opened their own outfit or left. Now, the biggest challenge we have in our country is that if you look across the region, walk into Tanzania, the workforce in Tanzania, actually the best workforce there is Kenyan. Go across to Uganda, the best workforce in Uganda, in the hotel industry, tour industry, those are Kenyans. Go all the way down to Kigali, Rwanda. The staff you have there, the best hotels there, those are Kenyans. So our challenge as a country is that we are training and we are losing a lot of our best staff to the region.
Yeah.
You know, it's very funny. You can travel. I go to WTM and I get to a hotel. I get to a nice hotel, and the third person I'm meeting is a Kenyan. The manager for the hotel is a Kenyan.
Hi. Yeah.
You walk into Dubai, you go to a Marriott, the person receiving you is a Kenyan. So we have a lot of manpower here, but we are exporting too much of it. That is the challenge we have. The good thing again is that we still have these trainings going on, and we still have staff coming out. So the program that normally is done by KEPSA, I think it's done by KEPSA and the Ministry for Public Works and the Ministry of Tourism, is that we need as an industry to ensure that we offer, what do you call it? We need to offer training to young people as they come in. When they come from the colleges, internships. We need to offer internships in our companies, in our hotels, in our restaurants. It's the only way to build capacity from college to work. So if we keep on doing that, I think we have enough manpower in the country to run the establishments we have. 3 million is a small number. If we talk about 3 million, I don't think we are challenged. The challenge will come when we get the 10 million. Yes.
But for now, we are sorted.
For now, the
should just
industry,
avoid
the industry is ready.
the brain drain.
Yeah, the industry is ready.
And because of the interest of time, I'm going to give you each a minute for if is one policy change or government initiative or even stakeholder engagement that can be fronted to improve, and maybe now Fred did mention that to hit 3 million will be quite a feat, but just to improve so that as we gear into 2026 we have better numbers. Which are some of these policy changes?
I think rather than looking at policy changes, I would like to see more collaboration, more engagement between government and private sector at the time that they're making these policies. I think a week or two ago, we had the Ministry of Tourism do a retreat in Naivasha where they were talking about policy and the tourism plan for the next 5 years, but there's no representation by private sector. You can create any plan on paper, no doubt, but if you don't have buy-in from the private sector, from your investors, from your manpower, then that policy is not going to succeed the way you would like it to. Ultimately, it will become a hindrance because it will put the government against private sector, right? There'll be a lack of confidence, a lack of trust between the two parties. And that is what is really lacking at the moment. We need to build that up more collaborative engagement so that we can move forward. Ensure that the government understands how we operate as an industry so that these knee-jerk movements, last-minute reactions that they have with 24 or 48-hour notice of changes are reduced. Understand the impact that has on our source markets and even on the local markets. What does it do to consumer confidence? If we're able to have that collaborative engagement, I think this industry can reach 10 million within 5 years without a problem, because the investors will have the confidence to come in and say, yes, we have a consistent policy, we have streamlined policies, we have engagement, we can come in with 10 million, $100 million and build a resort, or build in restaurants, for example, build that whole gastronomy, build the wellness, adventure tourism, all these things, develop them further. If you have that investment, you'll hit the numbers without a doubt.
Very well. Fred?
For me, I think the reminder of the government is very simple. Tourism is run by the private sector. Government work is supposed to provide enabling environment and policies that allows us to actually do that business. Stability is key in tourism. People will not invest or plan to a destination that they cannot actually retain the same promise they were given. That is lacking currently. There's a very big disconnect between what KWS is doing and what the industry is asking them to do. And last and not least, we request government with the humility that they operate within the law. When a country operates within the law, investors are safe in that country. When a country works away from the law, you can never tell what they're going to do tomorrow, and that is exactly what we are going through right now. So our request as an industry, as a federation, let's work within the law. All
right. That has been Fred Odek, the chair, Kenya Tourism Federation. Just next to him, we have Shazmin Manji, who is the director of retail and corporate sales, Twiga Tours. We have been looking at the enhancing tourism, or the tourism outlook, especially now that we are in the festive season, our peak season for tourism, just trying to make sure that we have the 3 million tourists in the country. But for now, let's cross